You're still teaching? At your age? My sister Amanda's voice dripped with disdain across our parents' Thanksgiving table. God, Kevin, you're 34. Don't you think it's time to get a real job? I kept cutting my turkey, not looking up. The familiar weight of disappointment hung in the air like a heavy fog. Around us, our extended family pretended not to listen, but I could see them leaning in, eager for the annual "Let's discuss Kevin's failures" portion of dinner. He likes teaching, Mom offered weakly, though her tone suggested she agreed with Amanda. And he has that, what do you call it? That little online thing you do. It's an educational technology platform, I said quietly, still focused on my plate. I developed specialized learning software. Amanda snorted, taking another sip of her expensive wine. Right? Your little computer games. How much does that make? $20 a month. Dad cleared his throat. Kevin, I could still get you that position at my firm. Starting salary is triple what you make teaching. Benefits, company car. I'm good, Dad. I'd had this conversation so many times I could recite it in my sleep. I like what I do. Like doesn't pay bills. Amanda cut in. She gestured around the room with her wine glass. Look at this house. Look at my new Mercedes in the driveway. That's what real success looks like, little brother. I glanced at her Mercedes, the one she was 3 months behind on payments for. Not that anyone knew that. My software tracked financial institutions, among other things. I knew more about my family's money than they'd ever suspect. Amanda's right, Mom sighed. We just worry about you, honey. Living in that tiny apartment, driving that old Honda. Don't you want more from life? More? I almost laughed. My little online thing had just passed $6.2 million in revenue last month. The tiny apartment was actually mine. I owned the whole building. And that old Honda, I kept it because it reminded me of simpler times, before success made me question everyone's motives. But they didn't know any of that. To them, I was just Kevin, the high school teacher, the family disappointment who couldn't get a real job. Speaking of more, Amanda smiled, that sharp predatory smile I'd grown to hate. Guess who just made partner? Congratulations, I said, because that's what was expected. Never mind that I knew her law firm was hemorrhaging clients, and she'd leveraged herself to the hilt trying to maintain appearances. Thanks, little brother. She reached across the table to pat my hand condescendingly. If you ever need financial advice, I'd be happy to help. God knows teachers barely make enough to survive. I pulled my hand back, something hot and angry building in my chest. For 6 years, I'd kept my success quiet, lived modestly, stayed humble, kept teaching because I genuinely loved helping kids learn. But moments like this tested my resolve. I'm doing fine, I said quietly. Fine. Uncle Pete joined in, clearly drunk on holiday spirits. Boy, you're living like a college student. When I was your age, when you were my age, you were filing for your first bankruptcy. I thought but didn't say. Instead, I just nodded and reached for more stuffing. At least get a better car, Amanda pressed. That Honda is embarrassing. I have a client who sells certified pre-owned. I like my car. You like being poor, she snapped. God, Kevin, you're such a disappointment. All that potential, and you wasted teaching algebra to teenagers and playing with your little computer programs. The room went quiet. Even Amanda seemed to realize she'd gone too far. Mom made a small distressed sound, and Dad suddenly became very interested in his mashed potatoes. I set down my fork, finally looking up to meet my sister's eyes. You done? She had the grace to look slightly embarrassed, but recovery was her specialty. I'm just trying to help. Someone has to tell you the truth. Truth. That word hit something in me, some last wall of patience. 6 years of biting my tongue, of letting them think I was struggling, of enduring their pity and scorn. Maybe it was time for some truth. I pulled out my phone, opened my business dashboard. You want to talk about truth, Amanda? Let's talk. Kevin, Mom started, probably sensing danger. It's Thanksgiving. Let's just. No, Mom. Amanda wants to discuss my career choices. So let's discuss them. I turned my phone around, showing the screen to my sister. See that number? That's my company's revenue last month. Just last month. Amanda squinted at the screen, her wine-flushed face going pale. $6.02 mil. She started, then stopped, shaking her head. That's impossible. That little online thing you've been mocking? It's the leading educational software platform in 3 countries. We have contracts with over 200 school districts. That playing with computers you love to ridicule? It pays me more in a week than you make in a month. The silence around the table was deafening. I could feel everyone staring, processing. Dad's fork clattered against his plate. But you live so. Mom gestured vaguely, struggling to reconcile this with her image of her struggling son. Simply, I supplied. Yeah, because I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I drive my Honda because it works fine. I keep teaching because I love it. I live in my apartment because it's comfortable, though I should mention, I own the building. Actually, I own that whole block. Amanda's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor. Red wine spread like blood across the expensive flooring she bragged about earlier. You're lying, she whispered, but her voice shook. You're making this up. I pulled up another screen. Your Mercedes payments are 3 months behind. Your firm lost its biggest client last month. You've taken out 3 personal loans this year trying to keep up appearances. I looked at Uncle Pete. Your business is underwater, and you've been stealing from your employees' pension fund. My gaze swept the table. Should I continue? I have access to a lot of financial data through my little computer games. Kevin, Dad's voice was strange. A mix of shock and something else. Pride. Horror. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Every time I tried to talk about my business, you changed the subject. Every time I mentioned my software, Amanda mocked it. You were all so convinced I was a failure that you couldn't even see what was right in front of you. But all these years, Mom was crying now. We've been so worried about you. You weren't worried about me. I corrected gently. You were worried about how my choices reflected on you. What would people think of the Walters family, with their son teaching high school instead of joining Dad's firm? Heaven forbid I do something I loved instead of chasing status symbols I don't need. Amanda was still staring at the phone screen, her face ashen. 6 million in 1 month. And growing, I added, putting my phone away. We're expanding into Asia next quarter. Probably hit 9 million monthly by spring. I stood up, pushing my chair back. Now, if you'll excuse me, I should head home. I have papers to grade. Papers too. You're still going to teach. Uncle Pete sputtered. Boy, with that kind of money. Yes, I'm still going to teach. Because unlike some people, I don't measure success by the size of my house or the car I drive. I looked at Amanda as I said this. I measure it by whether I'm doing something meaningful with my life. Kevin, wait. Mom stood up, reaching for me. Please, we should talk about this. We've been talking for years, Mom. You just haven't been listening. I grabbed my coat from the rack. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Amanda, you might want to make those car payments before they repossess it. Would hate to damage the family image. I walked out, leaving them sitting there in stunned silence. The cool November air hit my face, and I took a deep breath. It felt good, finally letting the truth out. As I walked to my trusty Honda, I heard the chaos erupting behind me. Voices raised in argument, accusations flying, the sound of another glass breaking. My phone started buzzing before I even reached my car. First Amanda, then Mom, then Dad. I silenced them all. They'd had 6 years to see me, to listen, to care about what I was actually doing instead of what they thought I should be doing. Now they could wait. Starting my car, I smiled at the familiar rattle of the engine. I really did love this old Honda, despite what they thought. It reminded me of where I started, of the long nights coding while lesson planning, of building something real while they all thought I was wasting my time. As I pulled away from the house, I saw them all crowded at the window, watching me leave. For the first time in years, they were really seeing me. Not the failure they'd imagined, but the success they'd been too blind to notice. Let them watch, I thought. Let them wonder. Let them finally understand that success doesn't always look the way they think it should. I had papers to grade, students who needed feedback, and a company to run. Their opinions had stopped mattering long ago, even if I'd only just admitted it to myself. Besides, I had a feeling the real drama hadn't even started yet. By tomorrow, they'd all be calling with business proposals and investment opportunities. Suddenly remembering how close we used to be, how much they'd always believed in me. But I'd learned something valuable in my years of quiet success. The people who don't see your value during the struggle don't deserve to share in your triumph. I turned onto the main road, leaving their big houses and expensive cars behind. Ahead of me lay my simple apartment, my growing company, and a life built on my terms, not theirs. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. The weight of their expectations, their judgment, their constant disappointment, it all fell away with the truth. By morning, my phone had 47 missed calls, 93 text messages, and enough emails to crash a server. I ignored them all, focusing instead on grading my students' calculus tests while monitoring my company's Asian market expansion meeting via Zoom. The first person to show up at my door was, predictably, Amanda. She looked different without her usual polish. Hair hastily pulled back, designer clothes replaced by casual wear, the kind of outfit she'd normally mock others for wearing in public. "We need to talk," she said when I opened the door, trying to peer past me into my apartment. I could see the calculations happening behind her eyes as she searched for hidden signs of wealth. "I'm working," I replied, not moving from the doorway. "Working? It's Saturday morning." "Yes. Some of us actually work for our success instead of inheriting it." The jab landed. She flinched slightly. Our father's connections had handed her everything, including her position at the law firm. "Kevin, please." Her voice cracked, something I hadn't heard since we were kids. I need your help." There it was, not an apology, not an acknowledgement of years of mockery and contempt, just need. "The Mercedes?" I asked, though I knew it wasn't just about the car, or the credit card debt, the mortgage you can barely afford, the loans. She paled. "How do you know all that?" "I told you. My little computer games give me access to a lot of data. Financial institutions use my software for security and tracking. Did you think I was joking? I thought. I didn't. She ran a hand through her hair, a nervous gesture from childhood. Can we talk inside, please? I considered closing the door, but curiosity won out. I stepped aside, letting her enter my supposedly humble apartment. Her eyes widened as she took in the space. While not extravagant, it wasn't the struggling teacher's apartment she'd imagined. Original artwork hung on the walls, the furniture was custom-made, and the tech setup in my home office probably cost more than her car. This is not what I expected, she admitted, sinking onto my couch. No, you expected poverty because it fit your narrative. I remained standing. What do you want, Amanda? I'm in trouble, she whispered, staring at her hands. The firm. We're not just losing clients. We're under investigation. The partner position. It's not real. They offered it to keep me quiet about some irregularities I discovered. Fraud, I corrected. You discovered fraud, chose to become complicit, and now you're worried about going down with them. She looked up sharply. How much do you know? Enough to know you should be talking to a criminal defense attorney, not me. I can't afford. She stopped, swallowing hard. Everything I have is leveraged. The house, the car, even my clothes are on credit. I thought if I just maintained appearances until the partner money came through. You'd what? Keep living a lie? Keep looking down on everyone else while drowning in debt? I shook my head. Why are you here, Amanda? I need a loan, she blurted out. Just until I figure things out. $2 million would cover everything. Get me clear of the firm. I'll pay you back, I swear. I actually laughed. $2 million? Just like that? No apology for years of mockery. No acknowledgement of how you've treated me. Just give me money. I'm your sister. She snapped, a flash of the old Amanda breaking through. Family helps family. Family. I walked to my window, looking out at the city. Was I family when you told everyone at my graduation party that teaching was for people too stupid to get real jobs? Was I family when you convinced Mom and Dad not to attend my first teaching awards ceremony because it was embarrassing? Was I family all the years you treated me like something you'd scraped off your shoe? I was wrong, okay? She stood up, desperate now. Is that what you want to hear? I was wrong about you, about everything. You're successful. You're smart. You won. Now please, help me. Juan. I turned back to her. You think this is about winning? This was never a competition, Amanda. I didn't build my company to prove anything to you or anyone else. I did it because I saw a way to make education better, to help students and teachers connect in new ways. The money was a side effect, not the goal. Then why keep it secret? Why live like this if you're so rich? Because money doesn't change who you are. It reveals it. I gestured around the apartment. I live like this because it's comfortable. I keep teaching because it matters. I kept my success quiet because I wanted to know who actually cared about me versus who just wanted something from me. I fixed her with a steady gaze. Guess which category you just put yourself in? She sank back onto the couch, deflating. What am I supposed to do? Turn state's evidence against the firm. Get ahead of the investigation. Use your law degree for something besides maintaining appearances. They'll disbar me. Probably. Actions have consequences, Amanda. Something you never seem to learn. And the money. She looked up hopefully. You could still. No. The word was final, absolute. I'm not funding your lifestyle or bailing you out of consequences you earned. You want help? Here it is. Sell the house, surrender the car, stop trying to compete in a race nobody else is running. Easy for you to say, she muttered. You're sitting on millions. Millions I earned while you were mocking my choices. I walked to my door, opening it. You should go. I have papers to grade. You're really still going to teach, even with all this money? Yes, Amanda, because unlike you, I understand the difference between worth and wealth. I gestured to the open door. Good luck with the investigation. Try telling the truth for once. You might find it liberating. She stood slowly, moving toward the door like a sleepwalker. At the threshold, she paused. Mom and Dad are coming next, you know. They've been calling everyone, trying to figure out how to approach you. I know. Dad's already called his financial advisor and 3 investment bankers. Mom's researching my company online, trying to figure out how she missed it. I smiled slightly. They'll probably show up around dinner time, once they've crafted the perfect speech about how they always believed in me. And you'll what? Turn them away too. I'll do what I've always done, teach, run my company, live my life. Their approval stopped mattering a long time ago, even if they haven't realized it yet. She nodded slowly, then stepped into the hallway. For what it's worth, I am sorry. Not just because of the money, but I'm sorry. I know, I said quietly, but sorry doesn't always fix things, does it? I closed the door before she could respond, leaning against it and listening to her footsteps fade away. Through my window, I watched her walk to her Mercedes, sit inside for a long moment, then finally drive away. My phone buzzed again. Mom this time, her 15th call of the morning. I silenced it and returned to my desk, to my students' papers and the quiet satisfaction of a life built on my own terms. They'd all come eventually. Family, old friends, distant relatives suddenly remembering my existence. Each with their own agenda, their own needs, their own versions of, I always believed in you. But belief after the fact isn't belief at all. It's just opportunity disguised as support. I picked up my red pen and returned to grading, letting the familiar rhythm of teaching ground me. Outside, the city moved on, unaware and uncaring about family dramas and revealed fortunes, just as it should be. After all, real success isn't about who knows about it. It's about who you become while achieving it. And I liked who I'd become, even if my family was only just beginning to see it. True to Amanda's prediction, my parents arrived precisely at dinner time, dressed in their Sunday best as if attending a business meeting. I watched through my security cameras as they spent 10 minutes in their luxury SUV, clearly rehearsing their approach. When I opened the door, Mom was clutching Dad's arm like a lifeline, both wearing practiced smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Kevin, sweetheart, Mom started, her voice honeyed with forced warmth. We brought dinner from that Italian place you used to love. I noted the expensive takeout bags and the bottle of wine that probably cost more than they thought I made in a week. Come in, I said simply, stepping aside. They entered cautiously, like explorers in unknown territory. Mom's eyes darted around, taking in the same details that had surprised Amanda. Dad made a beeline for my home office, visible through the open door, where multiple monitors displayed real-time data from my company's operations. Son, he said, clearing his throat and gesturing at the screens. Perhaps we could discuss. Dinner first, I interrupted, pointing to the dining table. Since you brought it. They exchanged glances but complied. As we settled around the table, I could feel the questions burning in their throats, the carefully prepared speeches waiting to be delivered. Amanda came by this morning, I said, serving myself some pasta. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. Oh? Did you? Help her? No. Kevin. Dad leaned forward. She's your sister. Yes, and for the past 6 years, she's been my biggest critic. Funny how that changed overnight. We didn't know, Mom whispered, about your success. Why didn't you tell us? I took a bite of pasta, chewing thoughtfully. When I first launched the company, I tried. Remember that dinner 3 years ago? I wanted to tell you about our first major contract. But Amanda was announcing her promotion. And you said, let's not spoil the moment with talk about Kevin's computer games. They both flinched at the memory. After that, it just seemed easier to let you believe what you wanted to believe. You'd all decided I was a disappointment. Why correct you? We never thought you were. Dad began. Really? I cut him off. Never? Not when you told your golf buddies I was finding myself through teaching. Not when you excluded me from family investment discussions because teachers don't understand business. We were trying to protect you, Mom insisted. We didn't want you to feel. Feel what? Poor, unsuccessful, like the family failure. I poured myself some water, ignoring the expensive wine. The truth is, you weren't protecting me. You were protecting your image of me. The narrative you created was more comfortable than actually seeing who I'd become. Dad set down his fork. I have some investment opportunities. No. But with your capital, we cooled. Dad, I'd interrupted firmly. I have a team of financial advisors, investment managers, and business strategists. I don't need investment advice from someone who still thinks success only counts if it comes with a corner office and a company car. Your father's just trying to help, Mom defended. No, he's trying to control, to finally have the son he wanted, instead of the son he got. I looked at them both. Did either of you even look up what my company does? Or were you too busy calculating my net worth? Their silence was answer enough. We develop educational technology that makes learning accessible to everyone, regardless of their circumstances. We've helped millions of students worldwide. Last month, we launched a program that provides free software to underfunded schools. I smiled slightly. But you don't care about that part, do you? Just like you never cared about my teaching awards or my students' success stories. That's not fair, Mom protested weakly. Isn't it? Quick, name one of my students. Any student from any year I've been teaching. Tell me about any of my achievements that don't involve money. More silence. But now that you know I'm wealthy, suddenly you're interested. Suddenly, my little computer games are worth discussing. Suddenly, teaching isn't such a waste of potential. Dad straightened in his chair. We make mistakes. We're trying to make it right. No, you're trying to get a piece of something you didn't believe in until it proved profitable. I stood up, taking my plate to the kitchen. I have a meeting with our Asian partners in 20 minutes. You can see yourselves out. Kevin, Mom's voice cracked. Please, we're your parents. Yes, you are. And I love you both. But love doesn't mean I have to fund your retirement or invest in Dad's business ideas or pretend the last 6 years didn't happen. What do you want from us? Dad asked, frustration evident in his voice. Nothing. That's the point you're missing. I don't want anything from you. I don't need your approval, your connections, or your advice. I built something meaningful while you were all busy doubting me, and I did it without any of you. Mom was crying now, silent tears tracking her makeup. We can't just. Start over? We can start being honest, I offered. Stop pretending. Stop performing. Maybe actually get to know each other as we are, not as you wish we were. And Amanda, Dad asked, will you let your sister face jail? Amanda made her choices, just like I made mine. I checked my watch. My meeting starts soon. Thank you for dinner. They stood slowly, gathering their things. At the door, Dad turned back. I am proud of you, son. Maybe not for the reasons I should be, but I am. I know, Dad, but I'm prouder of my students' success than my bank balance. When you understand why, maybe we can have a real conversation. After they left, I watched them on the security feed, huddled in their car, probably dissecting every word of our conversation. My phone buzzed, a text from Amanda. They strike out too. I didn't respond. Instead, I turned to my computer, connecting to the meeting where teachers from across Asia were waiting to learn about software that could change their students' lives. This was what mattered. Not family drama, not hidden wealth, not belated recognition. Success, I'd learned, isn't about proving your worth to others. It's about being worthy of the work you choose to do. Tomorrow, there would be more calls, more relatives emerging from the woodwork, more attempts to cash in on the family's sudden millionaire. But tonight, I had lessons to plan, code to review, and a mission that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with purpose. Sometimes the biggest success is simply becoming the person you were meant to be, regardless of who believes in you along the way. A month after the Thanksgiving revelation, I stood before my first period calculus class, teaching as usual. The whispers had died down. News of my wealth had inevitably leaked through the school, but teenagers are remarkably adaptable. After the initial shock, they went back to caring more about derivatives and upcoming tests than their teacher's bank account. During lunch break, I received an email from Amanda. She'd taken my advice, turned state's evidence against her firm, and was cooperating with investigators. The Mercedes was gone, replaced by a used Toyota. She'd moved into a small apartment and was, in her words, learning to live with less and finding more. Mom and Dad had stopped calling daily, finally accepting that money hadn't changed who I was or what I valued. Dad even attended one of my classes last week, sitting quietly in the back, watching me teach. Afterward, he said something that surprised me. I think I finally understand why you love this. I was grading papers in my classroom after school when my department head, Mrs. Sullivan, knocked on my door. Got a minute? She asked, holding a folder. Of course. I set down my red pen. She sat across from my desk, looking thoughtful. The district received an anonymous donation, educational software for every school in the system. Top-of-the-line stuff. She smiled knowingly. Any idea how that happened? I shrugged, returning her smile. Maybe someone believes in educational equality. This someone wouldn't happen to be worth millions and still choose to teach third-period calculus, would they? The software is good, Sarah. Use it. She nodded, then hesitated. Why do you stay? Really? You could be running your company full-time, living anywhere, doing anything. I gestured to the wall behind me, covered in photos of graduating classes, science fair winners, and academic team trophies. Money builds companies. Teaching builds futures. I'm fortunate enough to do both. Your family still giving you grief about it? Less now. They're learning, just like my students. I picked up a recent test paper and showed her the work. See this? Jenny finally understood polynomial functions. Last month, she was ready to give up on math entirely. That moment, that breakthrough, you can't put a price on that. No, she agreed, standing. You can't. She paused at the door. The faculty holiday party is at my house this Friday. Still coming. Wouldn't miss it. I'm bringing my famous potato salad. The one you could pay a professional chef to make, but insist on making yourself. Exactly. After she left, I checked my company's dashboard. The Asian expansion was exceeding projections. Our new accessibility features were helping thousands of students with learning disabilities. The stock price was up, but more importantly, our impact metrics showed improving test scores across all user demographics. My phone buzzed. A text from Amanda. Got a job teaching business ethics at the community college. Ironic, right? Starting next semester. Any teaching tips? Big brother. For the first time in years, her message held no bitterness, no competition, no hidden agenda. I typed back, Lesson 1. Success isn't what we own, it's what we share. Looking around my classroom at the scuffed desks and worn whiteboard, I felt the familiar certainty that I was exactly where I should be. My little computer games had grown into something that was changing education worldwide. But here in this room, I was still just Mr. Stevens, the calculus teacher who believed every student could succeed. The afternoon sun slanted through the windows, casting long shadows across the floor. Soon, the night cleaning crew would arrive, and I'd head home to my comfortable but not extravagant apartment. I'd review code, approve strategies, and plan tomorrow's lessons. Some might call it living below my means. I called it living according to my values. My last student of the day, Tommy, poked his head in. Mr. Stevens? Could you help me with these equations? Of course, I said, clearing a space at my desk. Pull up a chair. As I walked him through the problems, watching understanding dawn in his eyes, I thought about real wealth, not the numbers in my bank account or the company's market value, but the richness of doing work that matters, of staying true to yourself when the world wants you to change, of helping others find their path even when everyone questions yours. I think I get it now, Tommy said, grinning at his solved equation. That's what it's all about, I replied, meaning far more than mathematics. Later, walking to my faithful old Honda, I passed the school's motto painted on the wall. Knowledge is the greatest fortune. I smiled, knowing it was true in ways most people never understand. My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. Proud of you, son. Not for what you made, but for who you are. Finally, I thought. Finally, they were learning the same lesson I taught my students every day. That true success isn't about the destination, it's about who you become on the journey. And I had become exactly who I wanted to be. A teacher who happened to be wealthy, rather than a wealthy man who happened to teach. The difference might seem subtle to some, but to me, it made all the difference in the world.